How do you know when an introvert likes you? How do you know when he's someone who cares? Maybe there's a guy in your life who's kind of quiet, reserved, maybe a little bit shy, but you have a sneaking suspicion that this guy actually likes you. How can you be certain about this? How can you be sure that this introvert guy actually likes you? That's what we're going to be talking about today. Hello, my name's Matthew Coast, and welcome to Commitment Connection. If you didn't know, I'm actually an introvert myself, and so this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. And so let's talk about the signs that an introvert guy actually likes you. So sign number one is that he makes an effort to be around you as much as possible. And so sometimes with introvert guys, he might not chase you like you might expect a normal guy to just start chasing you and pursuing you and doing all that kind of stuff. But he might end up wanting to be around you and hang out around you, and he puts himself in situations where he can be around you whenever he can. So introverts, they tend to be those people who, if they don't like you, they like avoid you at all costs, right? They're like, they see you and they're like hiding under their desk or whatever. And maybe even if they do like you, they might do that. But if they do try to be around you, you know for sure that he definitely wants to be around you and that he likes you and that he wants to connect with you. All right, so number two is he's making an effort to start a conversation with you, even if it's a little bit of a weird conversation, right? So he tries to talk to you, he tries to text you, he tries to message you, or he tries to start a conversation with you, even if it's one that doesn't even really make a whole lot of sense to you. And it's one of those things like, and this isn't always the case, right? So as an introvert myself, I used to be really bad at conversations. I'd like say things and be like, and just sit there and think about it and be like, did what I just say, was that weird? Did I just say something weird? And so it's one of those things, like a lot of people that sometimes spend a lot of time by themselves will not be that. Sometimes they'll try to communicate or connect or do something, and it might come across as a little bit like socially awkward or something like that. But he's trying to make an effort, right? And that's the important point here, is that he's trying to make an effort. He's trying to connect with you. He wants to connect with you, and that shows you that he actually likes you. So number three is that he may observe you from afar at first. So one of the telltale signs of a lot of introverts is that they tend to take time getting to know somebody. So they tend to be one of those people that they don't let a lot of people into their lives, and they especially don't let a lot of people into their personal lives or their private lives. And so sometimes they'll just take time getting to know somebody before they really kind of let them in, because it's really a big, they kind of look at their space as almost sacred or private or something that they only allow certain people into. And so if he's one of those kinds of extroverts or introverts and he's bringing you into that space, it might take him a little bit of time at first, and so he might go slow. And sometimes we have women in our community that are like, why is this guy going so slow? And it could be a number of different things, but if he's an introvert, that could be a really big reason for it. But he might end up just observing you from afar, checking you out from afar, obviously in a non-creepy way. He's just like, hey, comes up. I don't know, maybe that was weird. Okay, number four is he opens up to you. And so most introverts, they don't really open up to a lot of people. And so if he's telling you things about himself, if you are somebody that he wants to be connected to. So if he enjoys talking to you and he tries to keep the conversation going and he's opening up and he's kind of doing these things with you in a conversation, he's doing it in order to stay connected. And the reason that he's trying to stay connected is because he likes you. So anytime he does that, then you know that You're special to him. You're different for him. Number 5 is he's taking risks for an introvert, right? So many introverts are super reserved. And so if he starts taking risks by maybe he's going somewhere with you or doing something that he normally would never go and do, he's doing that because he likes you, right? If he's speaking to you and normally he's like just hanging out by himself or he doesn't talk to people or whatever, right? But he's talking to you, he's starting conversations with you, he's having conversations to you. That can be a really risky thing for a lot of introverts, depending on their personality and a lot of other things around that as well, or how much they've kind of pulled themselves out of their box and talked to a whole bunch of other people and all that kind of stuff. And so if he's doing risky things around you for an introvert, that's a really, really good sign. So number 6 is that he shares something deeply personal with you. So maybe he shares some kind of fear, or maybe it's not even as dramatic as that. Maybe it's just a goal or a hobby or something like that, right? He's just sharing with you. He's connecting with you. He's bringing you into his world. And, if you like an introvert and he's connecting with you by bringing up kind of personal things, then you know that he's kind of into you. He kind of likes you. And also at the end here, I'm going to talk about what you can do to kind of pull an introvert out of his shell a little bit more and get him to connect with you more and get him to kind of step up and start moving things forward a little bit more. So number 7 is he invites you into his personal space. And so what he's doing may seem a little bit weird to you, right? If he's an introvert and he spends a lot of time by himself, a lot of introverts are into things that extroverts, if you're an extrovert, you're used to. It's funny, like I was actually just hanging out with a friend of mine yesterday with this extrovert, and she was like, it was funny, she's all about talking to people and being in conversations and hanging out with people all the time. And my friend and I are both introverts, and we're like, yeah, I could spend, 5 days. It's like one of those things, like when the pandemic hit, it was like, this didn't even really, it's not a whole lot different than what my normal life is like when the pandemic hits, like hanging out by myself most of the time anyway. And whatever. Anyway, so if he brings you into his personal space to share, whatever weird introvert things that he's into, it's because you're special to him and he's connecting with you and he's being vulnerable around you and he's bringing you into his world, which means that he probably really likes you a lot. And so let's talk about what, if you like this introvert, right? This introvert, if you're into this introvert and you're like, okay, how do I get him to kind of step up and lead this relationship that I want to have with him if he's not quite doing all the things, right? Because sometimes a lot of introverts, what happens is they spend so much time by themselves at home or whatever, even growing up, that a lot of times they're a little bit clueless as to what they should be doing in dating or how they should be connecting with someone or any of that kind of stuff. That was definitely my case when I was growing up. I actually first got into the dating advice industry as a client because I was an introvert. I had no idea what was going on. I had no clue that I was supposed to be pursuing women, that I was supposed to be approaching women, that I was supposed to be starting conversations to women, with women. I thought they would like come to me somehow and it would just happen and, all that kind of stuff. And so I had to learn about what it meant to be a man, what it meant to be attractive, what it meant to connect with a woman, what women were like and what they did and all that kind of stuff, because it was completely foreign to me. I had no clue when I became an adult how to connect with women in any way, shape, or form. And so, it might be something that he doesn't really get. And so the first thing that you want to do, if you want him to start stepping up and leading and kind of taking charge in the relationship, is to encourage behaviors that you want to see more of with him, because he'll look for those things, right? He'll check those things. He'll be like, okay, well, what's normal behavior here? What's not normal behavior here? Assuming that he's got at least some level of awareness. He'll want to kind of figure out what he should be doing. And so you want to just encourage any kind of behavior that you want to see more of. So encourage him to connect with you, encourage him to take the lead, encourage him to initiate contact, initiate conversations, keep going with conversations. And the best way, in my opinion, to do this is to create an association, right? Link it, frame, like I talk about in the Love Frames Toolkit, frame the conversation around the idea of it being attractive, right? Because he wants to be attractive to you. And so if you're like, okay, when you do this, I find it really attractive. Oh, it was so attractive when you reached out to me, or it feels so good when you're reaching out to me or connecting with me, or, I really love it when guys do this, or any of that kind of stuff, right? Like I talk about that in great detail in the Love Frames Toolkit. But just, create associations around what you want him to do and what he does do with it being attractive. And most guys, even if he's an introvert, will start picking up on that, and he'll start wanting to do those things because he wants you to feel like he's attracted, like you're attracted to him, like he's attractive to you. All right, so number 2 is this is a huge one too, is you want to get his blueprint for communication in a relationship. And I hear women do this all the time. We get women that are like, oh my God, this guy, like, he hasn't talked to me in 2 days. Like, what is his problem? I've completely written him off at this point, and I don't think he even loves me anymore. And I'm going to find a new guy, and I'm going to block this guy. And it's like, whoa, especially as an introvert, I'm like, 2 days? Like, that's crazy. Even in the men's dating space, depending on who you follow in the men's dating space, there's a whole lot of different people that are teaching in the men's dating space. But some of them will talk about, especially when you're first in the initial dating phases of meeting a woman, but, only reaching out to her, only connecting with her, every 5 to 7 days, something like that. And so you have to when you're connecting with any man, even if he's not an introvert or whatever, if you want to stay out of some kind of weird thing where you have this miscommunication about what should be doing, and he must not like me because he hasn't messaged me in, a day or two or whatever, then what you need to do is find out what his blueprint is for communication in a relationship, right? Because he may not want as much communication as a normal person would in a relationship. He might think of relationships as like, hey, I connect with her once every few days or whatever. And so with any guy that you meet, you should find out what his blueprint is. Like, what's normal for him in communicating and connecting, and talk about your kind of what's normal for you and what you feel like is normal. Because if you think that connecting every single day is supposed to be what a guy does if he likes you, and he thinks that connecting every 3 days or 5 days or whatever is what a guy should do when he likes somebody, then you're going to be very, very confused or sad, or you're going to feel like he ghosted you, right? Like a lot of times I get women that are like, he ghosted me, right? And then I'll have them send out that forward text message that I have in the Forever Woman program. And the guy will respond back and he's like, oh, I thought you didn't like me. Or he's like, whatever, right? Like, it's only been a couple days and it's not a big deal. Or, there's a lot of different reactions that they get. A lot of times the guy thinks that she ghosted him because of a whole bunch of other things, right? And so you want to find out what his blueprint is, find out what's normal for him and what he thinks is normal as far as communication goes in a relationship and in a dating sense. So number 3 is you want to give him some extra time and some extra space. So he might want to see you, but he might also need some space at the very same time, right? It's one of those things. There's a joke in the introvert space where we're like, we want to go hang out with somebody, and then we like go hang out with them for like a half an hour and we're like, okay, well, I gotta go, it's kind of like this running introvert joke where you want to hang out with people, but you also want your space, and it feels kind of uncomfortable, and it feels like a whole bunch of different things for a lot of people, right? I've got a lot of social anxiety. I'm an introvert and I have a lot of social anxiety. And so I've kind of expanded that over time because I've worked on it over and over and over again over a period of years. And so now I can go and hang out in crowds and stuff, and it's not that big of a deal for me for the most part for a while anymore. But a lot of guys, they don't want to hang out, especially if they're an introvert. They don't want to go hang out with people for long periods of time and stuff because it just drains them sometimes. And it depends on the person, right? Every person is different. And so for me, for instance, I'm not as good in crowds. I can do it for a little bit, but after a while I have to go like sit and be myself or whatever. However, if I'm just like with one person, I'm just focusing on just having a conversation with one person, I can do that forever, especially if it's a deep, interesting conversation about psychology or life or human potential or some of the topics that I'm interested in. I can do that forever. So number 4 is you want to tell him that if he needs space, just to let you know. And so if he needs space at any point, just say, hey, if you ever need any space, just let me know, and I won't be offended or any of that kind of stuff. And if I ever need any space, I'll let you know. And then you've kind of created an opening for that person to just be like, hey, I need some space right now. And as somebody who might not be an introvert, or somebody that wants to connect, or somebody that's, in a position where you're with somebody like that, it might feel a little bit hurtful to you, but at least you know. And then you can connect with somebody else and complain to them that your boyfriend doesn't want to connect with you as much as you want to connect with him, or whatever you end up doing with your friends and all that kind of stuff. So all right, so I'm just going to go back over the signs real quick, and then here's what I want you to do. Let's talk about the signs that an introvert likes you. Number 1, he makes an effort to be around you as much as he possibly can. Number 2 is he's making an effort to start a conversation, even if it's a little bit weird. Number 3 is he may observe you from afar at first. Number 4 is he opens up to you. Number 5 is he's taking risks that would be risks for like an introvert. Number 6 is he shares something deeply personal. Number 7 is he invites you into his personal space. And then if you want to encourage him to kind of step up and be the man and lead the relationship, what you want to do is encourage behaviors that you want, right? And communicate what it is that you want so that he knows. Number 2 is you want to get his blueprint for communication in a relationship. Number 3 is you want to give him extra space. And number 4, you want to let him know that if he needs space, just to let you know. And so that's it.